Imagine you're the CEO of a massive manufacturing company. You make steel, chemicals, or cars, the stuff that built the modern world. You're in Germany, the economic engine of Europe, a place synonymous with precision, efficiency, and engineering supremacy. But here's the problem. You walk onto your factory floor and it's quiet, too quiet. You're not shut down because you ran out of customers. You're not shut down because your workers are on strike. You're shut down because you literally cannot afford to turn the lights on. Welcome to the greatest economic self-destruction in modern history. Germany spent over $500 billion, $500 billion, trying to engineer a green energy utopia. And what did they get for that mountain of cash? The highest electricity prices in the developed world, a collapsing industrial base, and here's the darkest irony of all. They're currently relying on coal, the dirtiest fossil fuel on the planet, to keep the lights on. The worst part? This was completely avoidable. Buckle up. We're about to dissect the most expensive unforced error in modern economic history. Let's rewind the clock. It's March 2011. A massive earthquake hits Japan, triggering a tsunami that slams into the Fukushima nuclear power plant. It was a tragedy, absolutely, but it happened 5,000 miles away from Germany, in a seismically active zone involving a 40-year-old plant design. Germany, for the record, is not known for its massive tsunamis. Logic would dictate a safety review, right? Maybe check your backup generators, upgrade protocols, learn from the incident. But politics isn't about logic, it's about emotion. And the German public was terrified. Chancellor Angela Merkel, a literal physicist with a PhD in quantum chemistry, had just extended the lifespan of Germany's nuclear plants. At the time, nuclear provided about 25% of Germany's electricity. It was clean, stable, and cheap. But days after Fukushima, Merkel made a calculated political pivot. She announced the Atomausstieg, the nuclear phase-out. Germany would shut down all of its nuclear reactors. 8 of them were switched off immediately. Just click, gone. This is the original sin of the German energy crisis. Let me put this in perspective. Imagine you live in a house with a very reliable furnace. You decide you want solar panels on the roof. Great idea. But instead of installing the panels first and then turning off the furnace, you smash the furnace with a sledgehammer in the middle of winter and say, "Don't worry, the sun will come out eventually." Germany took 17 trusted, paid-off, zero-carbon power plants and threw them in the trash. Why is this a $500 billion mistake? Because building wind turbines is expensive, sure. But building wind turbines to replace working nuclear plants? That's economic suicide. You're not adding capacity. You're just spending billions to run in place. And here's the kicker, the punchline that nobody's laughing at. Despite spending hundreds of billions on renewables, Germany's carbon emissions barely moved for a decade. Why? Because when the wind didn't blow and the sun didn't shine, which happens a lot in Northern Europe, they couldn't turn the nuclear plants back on. So they burned coal. They killed the cleanest form of baseload power to save the environment and ended up relying on the dirtiest rock in the ground. Okay, so you've killed your nuclear plants. You have a lot of wind and solar, but they're intermittent. You need a backup for those dark, windless days, what Germans call Dunkelflaut. If you want to get off coal eventually, what's the bridge fuel? Natural gas. It burns cleaner than coal, you can spin the turbines up fast, and it's great for industrial heat, which Germany needs for making chemicals and steel. But Germany doesn't have much gas of its own. Enter the dealer, Vladimir Putin. For decades, Germany operated under a policy called Wandel durch Handel, change through trade. The idea was incredibly optimistic. If we buy enough gas from Russia, if we entangle our economies, Russia will become a nice liberal democracy. They won't go to war with their best customer, right? This led to the construction of Nord Stream 1 and the planning of Nord Stream 2, massive pipelines running under the Baltic Sea, designed to pump cheap Siberian gas directly into German industry. By 2021, Germany was importing 55% of its natural gas from Russia. Their entire manufacturing model, BASF, Bayer, Volkswagen, was predicated on the assumption that cheap Russian gas would flow forever. There were warnings. Oh, there were so many warnings. The Poles warned them. The Ukrainians warned them. The Baltic states screamed from the rooftops that this was a geopolitical trap. And then there was that viral UN moment, the German delegation smirking and laughing when they were warned about becoming totally dependent on Russian energy. Fast forward to February 2022. Russian tanks roll into Ukraine. The laughter stopped real quick. When the sanctions hit and Russia throttled the gas flows, Germany was caught with its pants down in a blizzard. The price of gas didn't just go up, it went vertical. Spot market prices increased by 1,000% at the peak. Remember that factory owner from the beginning? Suddenly, his energy bill went from $1 million a month to $10 million. You can't absorb that. You can't pass that on to customers who can just buy steel from China or the US. The German government had to bail out utility giant Uniper to the tune of $30 billion just to keep the lights on. And here's where the trap snaps shut. Germany shut down its nuclear, so no backup there. It alienated itself from fossil fuels ideologically, and then its main supplier of the one fuel it did allow turned into an enemy. The era of cheap German manufacturing? Gone forever. If you want to see the real cost of this energy trap, look at Ludwigshafen. This is the home of BASF, the largest chemical producer in the world. This one site consumes about as much natural gas as all of Switzerland. For decades, this was the beating heart of German industry. But things have changed dramatically. BASF is scaling back operations in Germany due to uncompetitive energy costs and shifting investment priorities overseas. The company is cutting 2,600 jobs, mainly in Germany, while investing 10 billion euros in a new chemical complex in Guangdong, China. And they're not alone. Volkswagen is facing potential job cuts of up to 30,000 in Germany while making massive investments in China. Bosch announced plans to cut 7,000 jobs in Germany as it increases investment in China's e-mobility. Economists have a polite term for this: structural change. I have a more accurate term: deindustrialization. Think about what this means. Germany is an export economy. It doesn't have Facebook or Google. It makes things you can touch. If you take away the ability to make stuff competitively, what's left? A really nice museum with good beer. The CEO of BASF didn't mince words. Europe is becoming increasingly uncompetitive. That's CEO speak for we're leaving before the ship sinks. This isn't just about rich shareholders losing money. This is about high-paying middle-class union jobs that hold a society together. When the steel mills close, they don't come back. When the chemical plants move to China, they stay in China. Broader manufacturing saw 120,000 positions disappear in 2024 alone. Germany became the only economy in the G7 to contract in 2023. Economists stated that Germany's economy was in a permanent crisis mode, with the Handelsblatt Research Institute declaring that it was in its greatest crisis in post-war history. Germany is literally hollowing itself out to meet carbon targets that the rest of the world is ignoring. Now let's get technical, because this is where the incompetence truly shines. Germany has a geography problem. The wind blows in the north where the ocean is. The factories are in the south where BMW and Siemens are. To get the power from north to south, you need massive high-voltage transmission lines. The biggest one is called SuedLink. It was supposed to be ready by 2022, just in time for the nuclear phase-out. The reality? It's stuck in bureaucratic hell. Due to endless lawsuits and NIMBY protests, they had to agree to bury the cables underground, which tripled the cost and delayed the project. The new completion date? 2028. Maybe. So what happens when a storm hits the North Sea and the wind turbines spin like crazy? You have too much power in the north and no way to send it south. The grid gets overloaded. To prevent a blackout, grid operators have to tell the wind farms to turn off. But here's the kicker. The wind farms still get paid. It's called redispatch, or as I call it, ghost electricity. German consumers are paying wind farms billions of euros not to produce power. The cost of this congestion management hit a record $4.2 billion. Let that sink in. You're paying for wind turbines to sit idle in the north. Meanwhile, because that power can't reach the south, the factories in Bavaria have to fire up coal and gas plants to keep running. You're paying twice. Once for the green energy you didn't get, and once for the dirty energy you had to use instead. And who pays for it? The German grandma checking her mailbox, finding an electricity bill that has doubled in 3 years. By 2023, the German government realized they needed a new win. They needed to decarbonize your basement. Enter the Heizungsgesetz, the heating law. The Green Party economic minister pushed through a law that effectively banned new oil and gas boilers. The replacement? Heat pumps. Now, heat pumps are amazing technology, but there's a catch. They work best in modern, well-insulated houses with underfloor heating. Do you know what most German houses are? Old, drafty, built with bricks thick enough to stop a tank. To make a heat pump work in a 1950s German house, you often need to rip up the floors, replace the radiators, and insulate the walls. The government offered subsidies, but the messaging was a disaster. It felt like forced expropriation. Grandma, living on a pension in her paid-off house, was suddenly told she might have to take out a loan just to stay warm next winter. The public reaction wasn't just anger, it was fury. The tabloid newspaper Bild ran headlines calling it the heat hammer. The far-right party, AfD, surged in the polls largely by saying, "We won't touch your boiler." It got so bad that the government nearly collapsed. They had to water down the law significantly. But the damage was done. Instead of incentivizing the transition, they tried to mandate it overnight, ignoring the economic reality of their own citizens. People panicked and bought brand new gas boilers before the ban kicked in, locking in fossil fuel usage for another 20 years. It was a masterclass in how not to do policy. Now, the German government will tell you, but wait, our emissions are dropping. We hit our climate targets, and technically they're right. In 2023, Germany's CO2 emissions dropped to the lowest level in 70 years. But why did they drop? Was it because of the amazing wind turbines? Was it the heat pumps? No, it was because the factories stopped running. Energy-intensive production fell by nearly 20%. When you shut down steel mills, chemical plants, and paper factories, your emissions go down. Hooray! You saved the planet by destroying your economy. This is the equivalent of losing weight by cutting off your leg. Yes, the scale says you're lighter, but you're also bleeding out on the bathroom floor, and it gets worse. Because Germany shut down its nuclear plants, its electricity grid is now dirtier than its neighbor France. France gets 70% of its power from nuclear. Their carbon intensity is around 50 grams of CO2 per kilowatt hour. Germany? Even on a good day, it hovers around 300 to 400 grams. So when a German buys an electric car to save the planet, they're charging it with electricity that is 6 to 8 times dirtier than what a French person uses. The green energy leader of Europe is actually one of the biggest polluters simply because they refuse to accept that nuclear energy is zero carbon. So here we are, late 2025. The German economy is stagnating. It was the only major G7 economy to shrink in 2023, and it barely moved in 2024. The German model, cheap energy in, high-quality exports out, is broken. Just this week, grid operator Amprion warned that Germany's power security will deteriorate over the coming years with potential shortfalls from 2031. Germany is heading toward a potential power shortfall of 10 to 24 gigawatts in 2030 during high demand periods as it closes generation faster than it builds replacements. And the Dunkelflaut problem? It's getting worse. In the second week of December, wholesale prices in intraday trading ranged near 1,000 euros per megawatt hour, more than 10 times the average price throughout the rest of the year. The political landscape is fractured. A no-confidence vote in the current government has set up early parliamentary elections in February. The industries that made Germany rich are looking for exit strategies, and the world is watching. Developing nations like India and Vietnam are looking at Germany and saying, yeah, we're not doing that. They're building coal. They're building nuclear. They're prioritizing reliability and affordability over ideology. Germany wanted to be a role model, and they succeeded. They became the perfect example of what not to do. They showed the world that you cannot run a modern industrial economy on intermittent, weather-dependent energy alone. At least, not without a massive, reliable baseload backup. So what are the lessons here? Lesson 1, energy policy cannot be built on emotion. Fukushima was a tragedy, but it shouldn't have triggered a panic that shut down perfectly safe nuclear plants thousands of miles away. Lesson 2, never make yourself dependent on a geopolitical rival for critical infrastructure. The warnings were there. Germany ignored them. Lesson 3, intermittent energy requires massive, reliable backup. You can't just build wind and solar and hope for the best. You need baseload power, nuclear, hydro, or reliable gas to keep the lights on when the wind doesn't blow. Lesson 4, you can't mandate a transition faster than technology and infrastructure can support it. The heat pump disaster proved that. You need to bring people along, not force them. Lesson 5, lower emissions through economic collapse is not success. It's failure disguised as virtue. Is there a way out? Maybe. Germany still has incredible engineers. They have deep pockets. There's talk of restarting some nuclear plants, though the technical hurdles are massive. But the lesson for the rest of us is clear. Energy policy requires physics, math, and cold, hard economics. If you let ideology drive the bus, don't be surprised when you drive it off a cliff. Germany spent $500 billion to learn this lesson. Hopefully, the rest of us can learn it for free. Thanks for watching. If this opened your eyes, hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment below. Do you think Germany can recover from this? Or is the damage permanent? I'll see you in the next one.